I challenged my archeneemy to a fight and ended up with a huge belly. I had no choice but to go to the hospital to solve this difficult problem. Little did I know that I ran into my archeneemy in the hospital. He stared at my bulging belly and sneered. "Hey, why are you so fat?" 1. When I heard the news of my pregnancy, I felt like the sky was falling. I would rather believe that I was sick than accept the news that I was pregnant. The doctor told me that my body is special and that I have an extra set of reproductive organs compared to other people. But I am still a man at heart. So I can get pregnant even without my period. It's been 3 months. Why did you wait until now to come for a checkup? I lowered my head in shame. It was poverty. I started to feel uncomfortable in my stomach a long time ago. I had no appetite for anything. My limbs became noticeably thinner and my stomach gradually became bigger. My friend advised me to go to the hospital for a checkup and then check out the pregnancy news. Even God is playing tricks on me. The doctor glanced at the empty back of me and asked, "Do you want the child?" I was a little flustered. I clenched and unclenched my hands on my thighs. My palms were already soaked with sweat. No. Because the child's father is the person I hate the most. Nixon was a rich man who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. While I was just the child of a servant who lived in their family for a short time. Nixon looked down on me from the bottom of his heart. He treated me like a servant at school and asked me to help him with my homework when I got home. 3 months ago, he said he was in a bad mood and asked me to accompany him to the bar for entertainment and he would pay me triple salary in return. At that time, I was so obsessed that I agreed without thinking and it turned out to be a big deal and we both fell for it. I don't know who took the initiative first and the ridiculous night ended at dawn. Afterwards, Nixon was calmer than I thought and was even in a mood to tease me. "I didn't expect you to be so proactive last night. Are you secretly in love with me?" I was so mad at him because I was the one underneath. And of course, he had no problem talking while standing. I pushed him away angrily. "Who the hell has a crush on you? Stop being narcissistic." If a man as arrogant as him knew that I was pregnant with his child, I wonder how he would mock and laugh at me. So this child can't be. 2. As expected, we cannot talk to people during the day. As soon as I walked out of the hospital gate, I saw Nixon getting out of the luxurious Maybach in a menacing manner. Nixon has superior facial features. And he looks good even when he frowns. He has a handsomeness between youth and maturity, and his appearance and demeanor reveal generosity. I wanted to ignore him and walk past him. But he blocked my way anyway. He stared at my bulging belly for a moment, frowned even deeper, and said sarcastically, "Hey, why are you so fat? It's been 3 months since we last saw each other. And he hasn't changed at all. Still so annoying." I know his character very well. But hearing these words from him made me feel very uncomfortable. Especially after pregnancy. I become more sensitive. If I'm not mistaken, this is the fertility department, right? What are you doing here? My heart tightened. I didn't dare tell him that I was pregnant with his child. Even if he knew, he would probably not want the child and would even call me a monster. I hurriedly found an excuse to get by. Just passing by. Nixon looked behind me and didn't seem to find what he was looking for with a mischievous smile on his lips. Just passing by. Are you hiding your girlfriend from me again? I get angry when I mention this and I can't help but clench my hands into fists. It has nothing to do with you. What blind woman would fall for you? Don't worry. She definitely has better taste than you. Nixon, who was just gloating, suddenly stopped smiling. I could clearly sense that he was unhappy. After a long while, he asked a series of questions unwillingly. "Who is the person you are dating? Do I know her? Is she the reason you are avoiding me?" Based on my previous experience, I would not tell him even if I had a girlfriend. But today, if I didn't tell him, he would keep pestering me. So, I simply said that I didn't have a girlfriend. He was obviously relieved when he heard me say I didn't have a girlfriend. Damn it. I didn't want to talk to him anymore and was about to walk around him. But he grabbed my wrist. Bruno. You haven't told me what you're doing here. He seemed to be particularly interested in my private affairs. If I didn't know, I would have thought he was concerned about me. But only I knew that he wanted to find something to hold against me so that he could control me in the future. How could I let him do what he wanted? I'm here to check if I've been infected with any dirty diseases. The fee is $500. Remember to give me. Nixon's face turned pale and he gritted his teeth and said, Hey, Bruno. You turned your face away after having fun. This is my first time. What dirty disease can I pass on to you? You peed all over me. So I should be the one to get checked. I smiled and said nothing. It's really disgusting that he with such impeccable facial features could say such vulgar and rude words. I didn't have the energy to argue with him. So I found an excuse to leave. 3. After returning home, I received 250 yuan transferred from Nixon. Sometimes I really want to call the police. I haven't received the money. When the time is up, the system will automatically return it to him. That night, I had a nightmare. I dreamed that Nixon discovered the secret in my belly. He looked at my belly with disgust and his tone was cold. The child will probably be a freak when he is born. I don't want either you or the child. Go get rid of the child now and never show up in front of me again. After waking up, my back was covered in sweat. Even though it's just a dream, knowing Nixon, he can do it. When I was 10 years old, my parents died in a car accident and I lived with my aunt. Later, my aunt went to work as a domestic helper and the employer was kind enough to allow my aunt to bring me along to take care of me. I know Nixon has never liked me and he plays with me just to obey his father. In his words, I am no different from a personal nanny. We first met in that piano room. He was wearing a haute couture suit. His clothes were ironed straight and his hair was casually scattered between his brows. But it couldn't conceal his innate noble aura. And even if I put on the new clothes my aunt prepared for me and lived in a billion-dollar mansion, I couldn't hide the rustic smell on my body. I have always been clear about my position. Nixon and I are not from the same world. It was daybreak outside and I was no longer sleepy. I took out all the long-sleeved shirts in my closet. I absolutely couldn't let anyone know the little secret in my belly. Especially Nixon. Now the month is still small. It can barely cover the belly. But this is not a solution after all. The weather is getting hotter and hotter. And wearing such thick clothes every day will sooner or later arouse suspicion. I went to look in the mirror and was almost shocked by what I saw. I was not as good-looking as Nixon to begin with. And now I had a few pimples on my face, which made me even uglier. It can be seen from this that this child cannot be left. So I went to the hospital again for I didn't want to have any contact with Nixon before I aborted the child. But fate played a trick on me and forced me to beg him humbly. The doctor told me that my condition was more complicated than others and the surgery would be more expensive than ordinary surgeries. When I saw the string of numbers on the list, my eyes went dark. My aunt was sick and hospitalized some time ago and my savings had long been depleted. So I couldn't come up with so much money at once. I wanted to go back and think of other options. But the doctor said that this kind of thing cannot be delayed. The longer you delay, the greater the risk. The most important thing is that I have a special body and can get pregnant even without my period. I am not sure if I can have surgery when I am already pregnant. Hearing this, a sense of unknown fear rose from the bottom of my heart. I'm not worried about the risks of the surgery, but about the child. Only when you walk the road yourself will you know how hard it is. Because of the label of orphan, it is common for me to be oppressed and bullied in school. I can't let my children follow my old path. After struggling for several days, I decided to go to Nixon AA to get the surgery fee. He is not short of money. He is willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a crappy game, so he shouldn't be so reluctant to give me this little money. At worst, after getting the money, We will never have any further contact. 5. When I found Nixon, he was playing basketball with his childhood friend in the basketball hall. The girls in the audience kept their eyes on Nixon, who was dunking. I think it's normal. Nixon has superior facial features. Even without his wealth, his outstanding appearance alone can easily attract a large group of opposite sexes. I don't care at all. They only see the surface of Nixon. If they get to know the real Nixon, will they still like him? I stood in the crowd for a long time before Nixon noticed me. But he was not surprised at all when he saw me and even ignored me. I touched my nose and quickly explained my purpose. That day, I shouldn't have said that to you. I'm sorry. Nixon ignored me and quickly got back to his senses. It seemed that he was still angry about the humiliation he suffered in the hospital last time. I acted as their ball picker as usual. His friends never treated me as a human being, especially Griffin, who seemed to have the most complaints about me and always threw the ball far away. Bruno, you picked it up voluntarily. Don't tell Nixon that we bullied you later. I was a little speechless. When did I ever complain to Nixon? Besides, Nixon has been ordering me around a lot. When I was in high school, I had a girlfriend. We were dating. And within a few minutes, Nixon called me more than a dozen times, asking me to buy him some water or pick up a package. These were actually not important things, but he insisted that I help him do them. After running errands for him, he didn't let me leave. He pulled me to an empty corner and pressed me against the wall. He rubbed my soft lips hard with his thumb until the skin became hot. Why are your lips red? Did you kiss that woman? I deny it. So, what do you want to do? I want to, but I won't tell him. Every time he asked such boring questions, I chose to remain silent. This made Nixon very unhappy, and he pinched my chin and warned me fiercely. You are not allowed to kiss that woman, let alone go to bed with her. Do you understand why he controls everything about me? Saying that he is worried that my relationship will affect my grades. But in fact, he is just jealous that I have a girlfriend. Sometimes I went to the library and came home half an hour late and he thought I had done something inappropriate outside and he almost took off his clothes to prove my innocence for him to check. Later, my girlfriend couldn't stand it anymore and broke up with me. On the day of the breakup, she was very calm and said to me, "Be careful with Nixon. I feel he is a weird person." In fact, I knew it without her reminding me. He and I are just in an employment relationship, not selling myself to him. So I hate him. Griffin threw the ball out for me to pick up like he was walking his dog. It was fine at the beginning, but after running back and forth a few times, it became a bit tiring. My limbs felt weak and I couldn't use any strength. I could only support myself with my palms on my knees to catch my breath. Nixon came over when he saw me. He had never been nice to me before, but now he was particularly considerate. Don't pick it up if you don't feel comfortable. No one is forcing you. I waved my hands to indicate that I was fine. In fact, I was already feeling very uncomfortable at that time. The air conditioning was set on very low temperature, but I was sweating all over. Nixon handed me a bottle of ice soda, but I didn't have the strength to open it. Ever since Nixon said I was fat, I only dared to eat half a bowl of food for fear that my stomach would swell before I had enough money. Fool! Nixon seemed speechless. It was just a lid, and it took me almost all my strength to open it. But he easily unscrewed it and brought the water to my mouth. At this time, Griffin also ran over. He has always cared about Nixon and followed Nixon almost wherever he went. If you didn't know, you would think he liked Nixon. It's strange that wearing such thick clothes on a hot day is comfortable. Nixon hadn't noticed my clothes at first, but after being reminded of this, he started staring at them and then frowned. Why are you wearing so many clothes? Take them off. Seeing him trying to take off my clothes, I immediately braced myself and covered my clothes tightly with my hands. Don't take off my clothes. I'm just a little tired. I just need to rest for a while. Griffin began to get impatient. He pulled Nixon away and said, "Then forget about him. Let's continue." Nixon shook off Griffin's hand, stared at my pale face, and said, "Don't be so stubborn. You don't look right. I'll take you to the hospital first." When I heard that we were going to the hospital, my face turned pale. I immediately pulled myself together and kept stressing that I was fine. And only then did Nixon leave with peace of mind. But I overestimated myself. Before Nixon could take a few steps, I fell under his sneakers. Just before I fell into a coma, I seemed to hear someone yelling, "Stop pretending to be dead. Get up and pick up the ball." And then I completely lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I was already in the hospital. The faint smell of disinfectant lingers in the nose. The surroundings were eerily quiet with only the machines beeping nonstop. Before I could figure out the situation, Nixon pushed the door open with several A4 report sheets in his hand. His expression looked a little grim. He glanced at me from head to toe and finally his eyes fell on my stomach. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" I was just praying in my heart that he wouldn't discover the secret in my belly. But after hearing his tone, I was afraid that I couldn't hide it anymore. I twitched my slightly stiff lips and the sound I spoke was hollow. "You know everything, Bruno. What are you going to do if I don't know about this?" I was so nervous that I couldn't move. My hands were about to twist together. I spoke with difficulty. "I will handle it as soon as possible and won't let you get involved." I spoke quietly, just enough for him to hear. Nixon was visibly relieved when he heard that I was going to have the baby aborted. "It's good that you have this awareness." Even though I had guessed he would say that, I couldn't help but feel bitter and uncomfortable when he actually said it. 6. I can't afford that much money right now. You are also half responsible for this matter. You should pay half of the surgery fee. This is my biggest concession." Nixon was stunned for a moment. Then he said, "Don't worry. Since we have been friends since childhood, I should pay for it." Now it was my turn to be stunned and look at him in disbelief. "So you're just paying for my surgery because we grew up together? So what is this? Is it considered a work injury?" Nixon looked at me funny and asked, "What name do you want me to use?" My heart sank to the bottom, filled with despair and anger. This guy is too heartless. I'm a little angry. He is a life after all. How can you be so heartless? Nixon reached out to take my temperature. "Bruno, I think you were seriously ill. I'd better ask the doctor to come and check your body again." I felt a pang of pain in my heart. Not only did he deny it, but he also scolded me for being seriously ill. "Why are you still crying? Was I wrong?" I was so angry that I was shaking all over, especially when I heard him say this in a joking tone. But on second thought, he is willing to share the surgery fee with me, which is already the best outcome. Nixon gave me a card, saying there was no limit. I could use it as I pleased. I refused. I only wanted half of the surgery fee. I knew very well that once I took the money, our distorted relationship would never go back to the same place. Nixon didn't understand my behavior. Why half? This was a mistake we all made together. And it's only fair that we each take half the blame. Before he could speak, the door of the ward was suddenly opened. Griffin came back, carrying a lot of takeout in his hands, all of which he had packed himself. Griffin and Nixon are both rich second generations who grew up spoiled and usually have drivers to pick them up when they go out. It's really a blessing for him to serve me, but I have no appetite now and just want to leave here as soon as possible. How much money will be wasted on this hospitalization? It hurts my empty wallet just thinking about it. Griffin said I was being hypocritical. If you weren't sick, I wouldn't serve you. No one is here for you to take care of. Just go. I didn't say anything. Nixon choked him for me. This is really a bit sci-fi. In the past, no matter how Griffin slandered and suppressed me, Nixon would just watch coldly. Beg me, and I will help you teach him a lesson. He seemed to enjoy the feeling of being asked for help by me. But I didn't let him do so. Every time he helped me solve problems with a gloomy face. But this time he unexpectedly took the initiative to speak for me. Even though I had said that Griffin was too thick-skinned to leave, he just glared at me in dissatisfaction. At this moment, my attending physician rushed in with a new report. And the first thing he asked was, "Who are the family members?" Nixon took the initiative to stand up. The doctor looked Nixon over, then sighed. "How can you be a good partner? You didn't even tell me you were pregnant." Fortunately, I was more careful. Otherwise, something bad would have happened. Nixon frowned after hearing this. "What are you talking about? Who's pregnant?" The doctor didn't indulge him. This is the most basic common sense. If you don't even understand this, how can you take care of people in the future? Nixon's face turned black. "What the hell are you talking about?" The doctor probably thought he was an ignorant scumbag who didn't want to take responsibility. So he just shook his head in silence. Why does this atmosphere look so weird? 7. Griffin took the report from the doctor. After reading it, his face gradually hardened. "What does it say?" Nixon stretched out his hand, but Griffin dodged his hand, put the report away, and then sent the doctor away. "Doctor, I will discuss this matter with my friend. Please go and do other things first." Griffin likes to act nice in front of people he doesn't know well. The doctor's attitude towards him is much better than that towards Nixon, and he always leaves with a smile on his face. After the doctor left, Griffin looked at me wearily, then pulled Nixon aside and said, "Nixon, come here. I have something to tell you." Seeing the two people with their backs to me, I felt uneasy. I pricked up my ears to listen, but the two people were too far away to hear clearly what they were plotting. No one knew what Griffin said to Nixon, but his face became increasingly gloomy, and he finally left the ward without looking back. After he left, Griffin closed the door and stared at my belly with a weird look, as if he wanted to stare a hole in it. The way he looked at me was different from the way Nixon looked at me. His gaze was aggressive, which made me feel very uncomfortable. I didn't know what bad ideas he was planning. Then he said in an incredible tone, "How can a man get pregnant? Brun, you're such a freak." I'm used to his sarcasm, but his reaction is weird. Didn't they know about my pregnancy a long time ago? Why did they give me the illusion that they only found out about it now? So, I quickly read the inspection report that Nixon brought back. When I saw the above results, my brain crashed. The diagnosis on the report was malnutrition gastritis, and there was no mention of pregnancy. The report that the doctor brought in, which was in Griffin's hand, only wrote about intrauterine pregnancy. So, Nixon didn't know I was pregnant at all. If you think about it carefully, it makes sense. Who would do a pregnancy test for a man? So, what does it mean that I just rejected Nixon's huge compensation? My lips trembled as I hurriedly asked, "What did you say to Nixon just now?" Griffin replied expressionlessly, "I told him you were pregnant with his child." "Then what?" "He said he wanted to vomit." "Oh, he just wanted to vomit. He didn't call me a monster." I think that's acceptable. I always knew that Nixon didn't like me, but when the facts were laid out before me, I couldn't help but feel sad. Ha ha. Griffin suddenly burst into laughter, his gloating laughter echoing in the ward. When he had stopped laughing, he said with disdain, "You are so stupid. I don't know what Nixon likes about you." I didn't understand what he meant, and I didn't have the energy to think about it. I just knew that I would go crazy if I stayed with him any longer. Finally, I found an excuse to go to the bathroom. But actually I went to secretly go through the discharge procedures. However, the nurse told me that someone had paid the medical bills. Who else but Nixon? I asked the nurse to print out a bill for me and I would pay it back to him when I had money. 9. As soon as I got home with the receipt, Nixon called me. Looking at the number I knew by heart, I hesitated. But when I thought about how I needed the money urgently, I answered the call with the phone pressed to his ear. He could feel Nixon's rage even through the screen. Bruno, what do you mean by leaving without saying anything? He actually had the nerve to bring this up since I made him feel disgusted. Shouldn't I take the initiative to leave? I felt that I was right. But I didn't want to conflict with him. So, I tried to communicate with him calmly. I suddenly remembered something urgent. So I left first. Is that all? I nodded guilty. But when I realized the other person couldn't see me, I said H softly. The voice on the other end of the phone was noticeably more relaxed. Next time if you have anything to do, tell me in advance and I'll take you there. Then he added, get ready. I'll pick you up now. Pick me up for what? Nixon told me that he had arranged for me to see a top doctor in the country and that he was going to pick me up for surgery. My body went cold when I heard the news. Unexpectedly, he was more anxious about this matter than I was. Does it have to be today? This is a hidden danger. The sooner we deal with it, the better. I know he doesn't like this child. But there's no need to rush for a day or two. The most important thing was that I was not prepared at all. I couldn't imagine how terrifying it would be to lie on the cold operating table. I have never been so scared as I was today. My voice was trembling. Can you not rush me? I'm not ready yet. Nixon was a little impatient and said coldly, be obedient and nothing will happen to you. 10. After hanging up the phone, the air around him seemed to fall into deathly silence. Unprecedented helplessness and fear surged over me like a tide, enveloping me layer by layer. About half an hour later, there was a knock on the door. It's Nixon. He was half a head taller than me, and the cold light from the corridor shone on him. With his back to the light, he was like a towering mountain, weighing heavily on my heart, almost suffocating me. Nixon, I don't want to go. I naively tried to discuss it with him, but he didn't give me a chance to refuse. His tone was unquestionable. Bruno, you will have to face this sooner or later. Yes. So, he arranged for me to go to what he called the top hospital and found a doctor to perform the surgery on me. Although I had done a lot of mental preparation before coming here, I still couldn't help but tremble when I saw the cold instruments and the doctors in white coats. I have searched for relevant information on the internet. They will insert these cold instruments into the reproductive cavity of the pregnant woman, crush the embryo inside into pieces, and finally the fetus will turn into a pool of blood and flow out of the body. The scene is extremely cruel. I was a little hesitant and wanted to leave here urgently, but the doctors in white coats stopped me from leaving, so I could only look to Nixon for help. Nixon? Normally, he would compromise if I showed the slightest sign of weakness. But this time, no matter how hard I tried, he refused to budge. It's just a checkup. Why are you so scared? Haha. It won't be him who will be lying on the operating table soon. So of course he won't have back pain while talking while standing. Although I kept convincing myself. When the doctors were about to take off my clothes, my psychological defenses collapsed instantly. I struggled to push them away and got up from the bed in a panic. Maybe my behavior was too extreme and the doctor present was frightened by my reaction. Nixon's face also darkened. Be obedient or you will suffer. I was so shocked by his cold words that tears burst out almost instantly. Nixon, I don't want to have surgery. I don't want you to be responsible. Please let me go. I beg you. Nixon was a little unhappy because of my non-operation, but he still gently helped me wipe the tears from the corners of my eyes. Bruno, You've been really weird lately. I know I must look very embarrassed now, but I can't care about that anymore. I just want to escape from here as soon as possible. Please don't force me to do something I don't like. When I was desperate, the doctor came forward and explained. You misunderstood. Nixon just asked us to check your digestive system. Your condition is not serious enough to require surgery. I was stunned, wondering if I had heard it wrong. Digestive system? Aren't you forcing me to have an abortion? The doctor patiently explained to me that I had some stomach problems due to dieting. They were just checking my body to facilitate future treatment, not performing any surgery. Hearing this, my brain was buzzing. So, the scene of being forced to have an abortion just now was all my fantasy. I looked stiffly at Nixon beside me, only to see him staring at me without saying a word. Then, he whispered a few words to the doctor, and the doctor left with a serious face. After a few minutes, he came back with an extra document in his hand. After reading it, Nixon's expression became more solemn. It was obvious that he was very emotional and his hands were shaking as he held the documents. After a long while, he asked with a trembling voice, "The child is mine." 11. Nixon put down the information and left with a sullen face. I don't know where he is going, but looking at his aura, it seems like he is looking for a fight. It's not like I haven't seen him fighting with someone else. The guy was sent to the hospital for a week. Actually, this matter was caused by me. When I was in college, I had some conflicts with my roommate. In order to retaliate against me, my roommate instigated other roommates to isolate me and locked me out of the door on a snowy day. It was a very windy and snowy day, and the oxygen I inhaled into my lungs felt like a knife cutting my internal organs. When I was alone and helpless, it was Nixon who came to my rescue. I don't know why he appeared there that night. It might have been a coincidence, I guessed. Nixon took off the scarf from his neck and put it on me. There was still some of his body temperature on the scarf like the warm sun in spring, slowly dispelling the cold and gradually warming up my frozen body. Before I could react, Nixon kicked the door. After the door was kicked open, he beat up the people inside. The one who was most seriously injured was naturally the one who had a conflict with me. For the first time, I realized what favoritism meant. It turns out that there is someone who will stand behind me unconditionally to defend and protect me without asking the reason or whether it is right or wrong. I feel warm in my heart. But this is all my fantasy, Nixon told me expressionlessly. I am the only one who can bully you. What a pity! It was late that day and I had nowhere to go. So Nixon took me back to his dorm to stay for the night. He said he wanted to help me warm up and I thought he would run hot water for me to take a bath or add some clothes to me, but he just opened his cotton coat and invited me into his arms. His intentions were obvious. He wanted to use his body to keep me warm. After knowing his intention, I refused. But he did not give me the chance to say no and just hugged me tightly. His body was very hot after warming up like a sun and soon our body temperatures merged together. I always felt something was wrong because I had never even hugged my girlfriend at the time in this kind of face-to-face face and ambiguous posture. On the contrary, Nixon didn't think there was anything wrong with it. And he wanted to rub me into his body. I'm just helping you keep warm. Not doing anything else to you. Do you think you are a fairy? I had no words to refute. So, we spent the night like this. Actually, if you think about it carefully, he is not that annoying. He also has a considerate side. But he just walked away resolutely. Could it be that he was fed up with my noise and didn't want to talk to me anymore? Just as I was thinking this, my cell phone suddenly rang. In fact, even if he didn't call me, I would still call him to explain clearly that it's not that I don't want to have the surgery. I'm just too scared and I need some time to prepare myself mentally. When I picked up the phone, I found that the caller was not the person I was thinking of and I felt inexplicably disappointed. 12. The call was from Griffin. His voice sounded a little strange with a weak breath. As if he was going to die in the next second. His voice was weak, but his mouth was very powerful. He scolded me before I could react. Bruno, I think you are really ordinary and boring. Your timid personality is really annoying. I don't even want to be friends with you. Only Nixon buys into your attitude. I just felt confused. It was no secret that Griffin hated me. But he wouldn't call me specifically to disgust me. Bang, bang, bang. The sound coming from the phone was a bit strange. Every time he said a word, there was a muffled bang-bang sound, as if someone was banging his head against the wall. How are you? Griffin's voice became weaker. Thanks to you. It's bad. What does this have to do with me? After he finished scolding me, he apologized to me neurotically. I'm sorry. I made it up on purpose. Nixon. He never said the word disgusting. He didn't know you were pregnant. I concealed it on purpose. I just couldn't stand Nixon being so nice to you. I'm obviously his best friend. But his attention is all on you. I was jealous to the point of going crazy. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Otherwise, Nixon will beat me to death. After listening to what he said, I roughly guessed what was going on. I didn't expect Nixon to teach Griffin a lesson. And I didn't expect him to be so cruel to his childhood friend. I could hear Griffin's wailing through the phone. There is one thing I think Griffin is wrong about. Nixon does pay attention to me. But he is definitely not as good to me as he says. Feels more like torture to me. I remained silent throughout. After a while, no one knew what Nixon did to him on the other end of the phone. But suddenly, Griffin's desperate call came. Grandfather. Ancestors. Please forgive me. Griffin was still begging for my forgiveness. But I was no longer interested in listening and just hung up the phone. I'm not that magnanimous, especially towards someone who has bullied me. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been so embarrassed in front of Nixon. Later, I heard that Griffin was hospitalized. His injuries were quite serious and 2 of his teeth were knocked out. I didn't feel any sympathy at all. He had it all his own fault. 13. Ever since Nixon found out I was pregnant, his attitude towards me has changed and he said some strange things. I'm sorry. I just found out about your pregnancy now. I have prepared for the worst. Since what happened before was just a misunderstanding. I just need to resolve it. Well, you have to pay half of the surgery fee as agreed. I'm afraid he will go back on his word. This is not my fault alone. He has to bear half the responsibility. But what I didn't expect was that he suddenly held my hand and said, "Oh, what, to get married? Aw. No way if you don't get married." 14. Nixon was more receptive than me and quickly immersed in the joy of becoming a father. This is not what I thought. I thought he would dislike me, call me a monster, and even distance himself from me after he knew I was pregnant. But that's not the case. Sometimes I can't figure out which of his words are true and which are false. Bruno. I want this baby. Give birth to the baby. We will raise it together. When he said this, it was as easy as breathing. He was young and ignorant and didn't know what being a child meant. That's a living person, not a cat or a dog that can be taken at will. Besides, even if he wanted the child, his family might not agree. I refused outright. When I was about to leave, Nixon suddenly called me. Bruno, do you have someone you like? I was a little caught off guard by this turn of topic. Is there any connection between the two? But seeing how serious he was, I couldn't just give him a perfunctory answer. So, I told him the truth. Not yet. When he heard me say that I didn't have anyone I liked, he raised his lips and moved closer. I do have one. I was stunned for a moment. I obviously hate him so much. But when I heard him say that he has someone he likes, I still felt sad. I don't know what my feelings towards Nixon are. I just chalk it up to jealousy. Jealous that he has someone he likes. I wanted to say, does it have anything to do with me? But what came out of my mouth turned into, who is it? Do I know him? Of course. You know him better than I do. Do I know that person too? I started to exclude people from my life. But in the end, it seemed that anyone could be the possible person. It is no exaggeration to say that people around me could not move when they saw Nixon. I benefited from his influence when I was in school. Those who had a crush on him would ask me to help deliver their love letters and would give me many benefits. I enjoyed doing this and was happy to do it. I suddenly became curious about who Nixon liked. What do you like about him? In fact, I can't really explain why I like him. It's just that before I knew it, he has become the most important part of my life. I've gotten used to having him around. Every day when I open my eyes, I look forward to seeing him and hearing his voice, which makes me feel at ease. When Nixon mentioned that person, he seemed to become less confident. I rarely saw such a humble attitude on his arrogant face. He already has someone he likes. And he even said he wants to have a baby with me. What a scumbag. Not responsible at all. I was furious in my heart. But Nixon didn't think there was anything wrong with him. And he said in a gentle and persuasive way, "Brun, are you jealous? Eat a hammer." My chest felt so tight, and I just wanted to leave as soon as possible. I had just taken a few steps when Nixon pulled me back, and I bumped into his strong pectoral muscles. Aren't you curious about who that person is? He was so close that I could even clearly feel his hot breath spraying on my neck. The skin there became scorching hot. Suddenly, I forgot about my anger and was filled with only a strange emotion. Perhaps I was infected by him. My heartbeat also started to speed up. It would be a lie to say I wasn't curious. But I didn't want him to know my true thoughts. If he knew, he would probably pour cold water on me. So I said to him what he said to me before. Who is so unlucky to be liked by you? Nixon laughed instead of getting angry. I don't know if I touched his sore spot. But for a moment, I felt the corners of his eyes were red. Am I that bad? When he said this, he felt like he was making fun of himself. And there was an inexplicable sadness. Seeing him like this, I suddenly felt a little regretful because Nixon rarely reveals his thoughts in front of me. But I considered whether to speak to comfort him. But after searching my brain for a long time, I couldn't find the right words. Finally, I had no choice but to resign myself to my fate and said, "I'm sorry. I want to know. I want to know who that person is." As soon as he finished speaking, Nixon's eyes lit up. He didn't say anything, just looked at me lovingly. He was so affectionate that I thought he was going to confess his love to me the next second. I raised my hand and touched my face. Is there something on my face? Don't you understand yet? I shook my head. What should I understand? Then the next second, I heard Nixon say, "Stupid. The person I like is you. I don't want to be with you just because of this child. I really want to marry you and spend the rest of my life with you." Nixon's words were so blunt that my brain froze and I didn't react for a long time. I guessed about everyone around me. But I didn't think about myself because I didn't think Nixon would like me. But the result was different from what I expected. I know this is too sudden for you. Maybe it's a shock. But it doesn't matter. I can wait until you accept me. So, he also knew about what he did to me before. However, he also told me that the last time he came to the hospital to see me was not to mock me, but to tell me about this matter. As a result, we parted unhappily because of a trivial matter. My mind is in a mess, and it always feels a little unreal. I'm not sure if liking Nixon is that kind of feeling. But when I heard him say that he liked me and not someone else, I was actually a little surprised. Extra. When I got home that day, I found that my aunt had also returned. She was busy in the kitchen and said that some guests would come later. So she asked me to wash the fruits in advance. I didn't know what kind of distinguished guest he was, but I had to serve him the cherries that I usually wouldn't buy for myself. It wasn't until I saw the so-called guest that my heart beat faster for some reason. What he said to me last time seemed to linger in my ears. Before I could open my mouth, I saw two heavyweights standing behind Nixon. Yes, his parents came, too. As soon as Nixon's parents came in, they couldn't help but look at my belly, especially his mother. She pulled me and said distressfully, "Oh my. How come you are so thin? I'm so sad." Then he glared at Nixon again and said, "If you can't even take care of one person, what's the point of having you?" Nixon is rarely left speechless. My aunt didn't know what had happened, but the appearance of these two old people at home at the same time must be something special. She dropped the work in her hands and came out to greet them without even having time to wipe her hands. This time, they should be here to discuss whether to keep or go about the baby in my belly. When my aunt heard that I was pregnant, she was so shocked that she stood up from her chair. "What were you talking about? Where did the child come from?" Actually, I was also surprised. I didn't expect Nixon to tell his parents about this. Under my aunt's repeated questioning, we had no choice but to tell her the whole story. When my aunt found out that I was pregnant with Nixon's child, she almost fainted. I helped her to a chair to rest. She thought I was being cheated and angrily threw the cherry at Nixon and even wanted to seek justice for me. "Tell me the truth. Did he force you to do this?" Thinking back to the beautiful scene that day, I actually don't know who took the initiative first, but I went with him voluntarily. I lowered my head in shame and admitted in a cowardly way, "He didn't force me. I did it voluntarily." Only today did my aunt reveal the secret she had kept for so many years. In fact, my body is not a secret. She didn't tell me because she was afraid that I would feel inferior. So, she kept it hidden for so many years. If I had known this would happen, I would have taken you to have the surgery no matter what. My aunt wiped her tears as she spoke. I hung my head in shame. The person I feel most sorry for in this life is my aunt. She didn't want to get married because she thought having children was too troublesome. But as a result, she has to worry a lot about me. At this moment, Nixon suddenly knelt in front of my aunt. "This is my fault. I insisted on taking Bruno to the bar. I am willing to bear the consequences." Nixon's mother also stood up and said, "In the final analysis, I am also responsible for this matter. I did not discipline him well. If you want to beat or scold him, go ahead. We will never stop you." They have made their attitude clear and my aunt's mood has eased a little. "So, what are you going to do?" Nixon said without hesitation. "Get married."